Fantasy football has become almost as popular as the real thing.
That's right. A Plymouth man has made a living out of it. Delane Cleveland caught up with the so-called godfather of fantasy football during a stop today in Crystal.
The destination is Buffalo Wild Wings in Crystal. This is the Friday football feast.
There isn't exactly overwhelming optimism for the Vikings this year.
You still got to root for them until they're mathematically out. You never know what's going to happen.
I think they'll be able to win a few games later in the year and, end up around that 500 mark.
The guy has no interest in breaking a tackle.
But thanks to fantasy football,
He is so much like Marshawn Lynch.
the fans stay as interested in the NFL as ever.
If the Vikings are out of it, I'm still rooting for my fantasy team. It gives me another reason to be engaged.
Fantasy football at least gives you something to root for. You're rooting for a player. You have some reason to watch.
For these fans, fantasy football is a game that gives them a chance to win a little money.
But you know what? Elite players get through that.
Yet for radio personality and Plymouth resident Paul Charchian, that game is a way of life.
Fantasy football's been great to me. I made a career out of fantasy football. It's almost a dream come true.
Charchian says 41 million people play fantasy sports in North America. He successfully tapped into that marketplace by simplifying the payment process.
The company that I've got in Plymouth, LeagueSafe, is PayPal for fantasy sports. We simplify the entry fees associated with fantasy sports and let everybody pay online.
So Percy, they charges 100% rent.
On top of that, he hosts the longest-running fantasy sports radio show.
And we're very proud of the show. We try to help people win their league with better information. We do a lot of the digging and then try to give people all that kind of advantages, figure out who to bench and who to start on a given Sunday, yeah.
I placed in every league last year, and I would say it was mostly on the advice of the players that he suggested.
Charchian says he does all of the digging on players that other people don't have the time to do, and so far, it's served him well.
I'm very grateful that it's a pastime that so many people love playing, and I've been able to put myself in a position to make a living doing it.
In Crystal, Delane Cleveland, 12 News.
According to the Fantasy Sports Trade Association, North America's 41 million fantasy participants spend about $467 a year playing fantasy sports.